end to chat if people still have time. I am recording it, so you know, if I could just go free form onto some really complex topics. I'm trying to keep it pretty high level and simple, but if I do, you'll have a recording to look at later. But it's really just to get familiar with some of the ideas that we might explore a bit more next year. Just exploring this, and I think this does fit with you know, ethics and governance that we're supposed to be covering, or CPA and IPA are, as far as I'm aware, for our CPD, is understanding new models of governance in a digital economy. Very relevant, you know, the things that have been happening. There have been some Enrons and Arthur Andersen happening lately in crypto, but that has been centralized crypto, you know, centralized exchanges that are run by people, and people can do bad things with other people's money. But on a decentralized protocol, there's distributed governance, and you know, this idea that, you know, Google's motto used to be "Don't do evil" or "Don't be evil." But in decentralized blockchain, where we're all governing, it can't be evil because smart contract says no. So do we keep trying to deal with the people who are not doing the right by us, or do we just use technology to make it so they can't not do right by us, you know? So it's these concepts I think we need to explore in this new frontier of ethics in a blockchain-based internet world. So I will start sharing at this point. Okay, present. I love Canva. I just whipped this up in 2 hours. Okay, so the topic today, now everyone can see my screen, I hope. Yeah, just making sure I can see any comments. Give me a moment. Just looking for my controls when I'm screen sharing. I'm not sure if I can see them. Well, someone unmute themselves. I can't see the chat right now. Can someone unmute themselves and tell me you can see the screen?
Yes, we can see the screen.
Cool, let's go. Thank you very much. And look, if you have a burning question, like, we can save them to the end, but if you've got a burning question, we can stop and answer it, okay? Just butt in, I don't mind. Okay, what is an accountant's DAO? Okay, there's all kinds of, I don't know if anyone's familiar with the concept of a DAO or blockchain. Some of you are, don't have to be. I'm just going to explain it from a kind of a mission point of view. Okay, but here is a case for redefining representation, you know, associations representing us, with decentralized technologies. Okay, just quickly a bit about me. I'm a fellow member of the Institute of Public Accountants, a registered tax agent and chartered tax advisor for a very, very long time. And I'm also a member of Blockchain Australia, because I firmly believe that the accounting and blockchain industries will one day kind of merge. And in our practice, we've been putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet since 2014, not by design, but it just happened that way. So Electrofrost Advisory or accounting was my practice for a long time, and with an advisory kind of focus, trying to move away from strictly tax compliance and helping our business clients. And I think that we came up with a pretty good service model with that. And, you know, since I've been working with the Digital Playhouse Foundation, a charity that I co-founded in Queensland for digital literacy, digital financial literacy, I was studying blockchain. I started putting these ideas together, and with Accountants on Chain project last year, quite a few of you probably turned up to those webinars, a knowledge sharing project. I just came up with this new model called Electrify, which is helping accountants and businesses to work together through crypto adoption. Okay, so but there's a long game, there's a long plan in it. It's the foundations of what I believe will eventually become a decentralized autonomous organization. Not necessarily this one, but I think DAOs are the future organizations. So the traditional accounting practice model, I believe, like many lawyers believe, traditional legal firms, the current models that we see with partners and little people working underneath will become less relevant in a digital economy of the future. They'll become flatter hierarchies, and the future is freelance in a nutshell. So service DAOs are my interest, not really the investment DAOs. You might have some clients who are playing around with, you know, DAOs, doing really hard DeFi crypto tax return problems for you. That's not what this is. This is simple, like we work together and provide services, contribute to an organization, and we extract value from our contribution. But can we also play a role in its governance and decision making, and using technology we can. These are just some of the projects that we kind of explored in Accountants on Chain, and with the wonderful Dr. Elizabeth Morton from RMIT. She triggered me onto this whole idea that I've been exploring of competencies and ethics. She reminded us that as tax agents, we really do need to be, you know, ethically observant of our competencies in this space. Okay, look, I don't want to go too much on this, but just giving you a little background. This was my Accountants on Chain concept of how a knowledge sharing community might work and support each other to support our innovative clients so they don't go to other accountants, just things that we need to become familiar with, and how we could innovate over time within our own practices. That project's still going, and I'm, as Electrify, my company kind of sponsors it because it's a charity project. Okay, so instead of investing in meme coins, accountants and such are looking for the real tech in blockchain. What can we use? What has utility, and what can empower our businesses? Us. Okay, so I saw that there was a problem. This is the Accountants on Chain purpose, that people who are innovating or in Web3, like the new internet, the internet of money, you know, using crypto and new technologies with it to scale their business models. We're really struggling with, you know, the ATO not providing much guidance, not many regulations, and accountants not being able to guide them because we don't have much to fall back on. And, you know, I don't think our accounting bodies are really kind of doing enough. That, you know, they're watching. It's a lot. It's hard for regulators and accounting bodies to sort of keep up with all this. But I think the crypto tax CPDs have been a bit high level, and I thought that we could probably work together a bit faster and more effectively on upskilling collectively. So yeah, so that small businesses can be supported by us. Okay, so my solution for that was called Accountants DAO or ACT DAO. This is just an idea last year I'm still working on. And the idea was to onboard small practice accountants, small to medium practice accountants and bookkeepers into Web3 in a digital native organization, which is a DAO, right? That would be faster, cheaper and smarter than traditional CPD. So this is about getting CPD teaching each other. Okay, and using Web3 accounting tools. You know, startups are building them. They need our feedback for them to work. If you're going to get Bitcoin on the balance sheet, you're not going to do it on a spreadsheet, trust me. There is new tooling coming that integrates with our accounting software that we're used to. So, you know, but every single business I deal with it is different. We encounter new problems, and no one of us is an island and can solve them on our own. We kind of need to have a highly efficient collective way of upskilling each other and building on each other's skills, fast track each other. And so, yeah, the schoolofbitcoin.com is a project also of the Digital Playhouse Foundation, and like an open source knowledge sharing school. And we're going to base that as like a business faculty of it, okay? And to involve the accounting bodies, you know, work together in a member value-driven decentralized professional association where we collaborate over competing. So with proof of competency as the new CPD, where we can actually prove publicly our competencies. Okay, because, you know, if NOLA says that I'm competent at something and that's on the blockchain, there's a lot of value in that. That's currency. Okay, so, but you know, in a value for value system, both Nola and I can benefit from that. Okay, so anyway, there was a roadmap for that. Don't worry too much about it. It's technical. This was the technical mapping of it when I had to do a pitch, where basically we're all learners. None of us teachers or students. We're all just learners, growing each other in a decentralised autonomous education system based on real projects, clients' problems. Okay, you learn from them. Someone else gets involved or builds on that knowledge, they get CPD credits too. Okay, but then I thought, well, if I'm going to do this as a decentralised autonomous organisation, which I'll explain that shortly, I came into these issues that I would have to, you know, that I would have to find regulatory equivalents. This is not like a company partnership. It's not a centralised model with directors and partners. It's something completely different. And to start any community, you need a minimum viable community. And I had to consider what would be the smallest group of accountants to actually assert influence on accounting industry CPD standards to get this recognised, okay, by the accounting bodies. And how viable would it be? You know, is there a competitive advantage to be gained in the market by this model against, you know, our very good CPD providers in our communities? And they are, you know, maybe they could be involved and maybe it would be advantageous for them too, including our professional associations. Disintermediation doesn't mean leaving people out of the picture. It's inclusive. Okay. It's just disintermediating roles, not people. Okay, and I had to consider what the best practice industry standards would be. So for a self-regulated digital organisation where its members co-design the organisation and have to observe bylaws of professional associations, applying that on a larger scale model. So complex things to think about there. So I let that sit for a while. But then I saw this post in SBAABTA. How do you say it? SBAABTA? SBAABTA? Anyway, it's Jeanette said, hey, just putting this out there, since we get more information and support from this group, can we set up our own body to compete? And she said it tongue in cheek, but I was like, yeah, probably. But like, I'm not going to prescribe it. I think it's something we can all think about. Like, you know, we have the MVC. That's the minimum viable community, okay? Because, you know, for any value of any network is its numbers, okay? The network effect. So we could think bigger, maybe beyond Australia. Doesn't have to necessarily replace the accounting bodies, though Jeanette sounds a little competitive, but competition can be healthy, right? Competition raises standards, you know, and people expect a bit more. So something to think about. So rather than the accounting bodies competing with each other, maybe they can compete with us. Just an idea. So let's get into it. 12:15. Next half an hour, you're going to learn what a DAO is, and then I'm going to put it into context in a sort of a not-for-profit association. Okay, so I'll get to blockchain, but thinking about a decentralized autonomous organization, it must operate on blockchain for transparency and security. The tenets of blockchain make that possible, okay? And it runs on smart contracts that execute decision-making. And that means smart contracts are nothing really that fancy. It's just code that says if this happens, then that happens. So if Nola completes this, we've got a contract, I automatically get paid. She gets the NFT proving she did it, blah, blah, blah. Things just happen really quickly without having to do it manually, okay? And it's transparent and immutable on a blockchain that it happened, okay? And it's member driven. It's not reliant on a central authority. It's not emailing your professional association saying, can you send me that certificate for that thing I did, or logging into the website to download it. It's just there. Smart contract did it. Okay, and it's been validated by us. Okay, and what I find most interesting as an accountant is it removes the cost of agency. Now, agency in an organizational context is your board of directors, okay? So if smart contracts are executing the decision making that the members are collectively making, then you don't need a board of directors or their salaries. Maybe what's being paid to them could be distributed to us for contributing, okay? So in a traditional organization, you've got a hierarchy, you've got the CEO at the top, board of directors, and all that decision making is concentrated at the top. The voting doesn't happen from the bottom. The minions don't get much of a say, okay? Well, sometimes they can, but and it's made up of employees, okay, who have a job and employment contracts and all that. And the managers delegate work down the chain, okay? Now, a decentralized autonomous organisation mixes it all up. It's non-hierarchical. You could think of it as flat or just distributed, okay? Decision-making is distributed to the edges, along with the value, okay? Siloed value goes to the top. In a DAO organisation, it flows to the fringes. So the contributors, all of us, we can vote on big decisions with our governance tokens a lot more quickly and a lot more cheaply than an election, okay? Because it's just done through smart contracts. And the contributors are building on roles that serve the purpose. So we all have roles in the organisation that serve the purpose, and we can self-direct, work in teams. You know, the organisational structure of a DAO is very formalised. It's not loose. I think accountants would run the best kind of DAO out there. Not that so far DAOs have been very experimental, but I think accountants could really set the standard on this, especially if it's going to be the structure of tomorrow. Okay, so DAOs need blockchain. Blockchain is like the new and kind of new internet that has internet native money, crypto, putting it really simply. But it's a governance technology. Sometimes people say blockchain is an accounting technology because it has a ledger. And if you think of Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was important to us because it was the first time that a database had been put on a blockchain. And so, you know, there can be no double spending of Bitcoin. It's transparent. It's, you know, it's the code is set in blockchain. It's fixed. No one can change it. And so that's blockchain technology in a sort of financial money, okay, context. But for organizations concerned with governance, blockchain can be used. So it's much more than just a ledger of transactions. So how does blockchain work? Some of you might have already done a little bit of reading into this. Carolyn Bowler, I once heard her, she's BTC Market CEO or something, and she talked in this podcast. I listen to a lot of podcasts. You got to listen to podcasts. She described it as a daisy chain, okay? So what happens is a transaction is requested. Okay, so I want to buy some CPD from NOLA, okay? That might not work, but anyway, let's just keep it simple. So a block is created on this internet of, an internet's just a network, right? We're just talking about computer networks that are maintained in a distributed, widely distributed way, okay? Rather than on centralized servers. And when that block, right, of that transaction is sent to every node in the network. So nodes are just computers, they're distributed, okay? I've got a Bitcoin miner on my desk over there and it's a full node. So basically I've got all of Bitcoin in a little box on my desk. That's a node, it's maintaining the decentralization of the Bitcoin network, okay? Blockchain. So there can be lots of blockchains, but just say we've got an organization built on a blockchain. Everything that happened is distributed. No one can come along and delete it because the transaction has been validated. The people maintaining the network have been rewarded, so they're incentivized. I get like, I don't know, a few dollars a day from that thing, not even that, but I'm being rewarded for maintaining the network and its truth and immutability. Okay, Then the block is added to the existing blockchain. There's the daisy chain. The transaction is complete. No one can change it. Immutability. So blockchain means you can't be evil. So as I said before, Google's motto was don't be evil. But blockchain says, computer says no. You can't go and change something or do something that hasn't been agreed to. Okay, so why decentralization? It sounds really radical, but I think it's going to just become normal. I don't know if any of you have noticed a book that came out by Paul Brody, Ethereum for Business. He's the blockchain lead for Ernst & Young, EY. And he talks about public blockchains. They need to be decentralized. In future, no one's going to want to do business in your walled garden. They'll want to scale in a big way. Okay, so with decentralization, there is greater security, greater, like, you know, the more people maintaining a node, the more secure. Like, you know, there can't be a 51% attack where we change the code of the blockchain software. It can't be done unless, like for Bitcoin, you'd have to destroy my node and the other, you know, 50,000 of them out there to get 51%. So that's hard because we're all in different countries. So the more distributed and decentralized those nodes are, the more secure that blockchain. Okay, it's not a central point of failure. So, you know, Amazon and Google, they have servers everywhere, but what we saw with Optus, it went down. So, you know, centralization can fail because there's a single point of failure. So we just cross our fingers that it doesn't happen. But yeah, there's greater member control, reduced biases. You know, the decision makers at the top can't be influenced and change things because, yeah, so closed source centralized systems, right? People can, you know, they're not as transparent and accessible to the stakeholders. Okay, and I think there are real world implications for accounting and finance professionals being built on major blockchains like, so I'm just keeping an eye on. Someone just, Rosemary said, you can't produce 7 balance sheets. I'm not sure what we're referring to, but we're going to come back to that. Okay, so yeah, look, pre-blockchain, centralized ledger, boss in the middle. It could be a target for problems. With blockchain, it's spread out, decentralized verification and computation. There's a lot of value in that. So what can a DAO do? So we've got our traditional system. We've got CEO, managers, non-managers, lower minions. Decentralized, we've got all the contributors, the validators, miners, and users. Okay, so all playing a role. So it enables collective ownership where we can share decision making and distribute those profits that are not being lost to the costs of agency. We can fund projects, allocate resources and funding to things that we agree on. So it's it's highly democratic. It's pure democracy in action. You can prevent tyranny and conflicts of interest. So member rights are protected with fair governance embedded into the protocol. Okay, users become owners. This is the ownership economy. This is so interesting. This is when we talk about Web3, we talk about the internet where you own your identity, you own your assets, and you're using the internet in a different way. So Web3 encompasses DAOs, okay? Collective intelligence, you leverage diverse expertise, like the smart people down here, I get to say. Remember when you were a junior and you had a great idea and the partner wouldn't listen to you? Well, you know, you could earn your way up the ladder or earn your way to have more influence in a decentralized organization more quickly. So reward where reward is due. And look, there are reasons why you wouldn't start a DAO for every organization, because collective decision making can really slow things down. So, you know, startups do need to be agile and fast on their feet and make risky decisions. And decision making in DAOs can be a bit slower. But for a big not-profit organisation that doesn't have to move that quickly anyway, it's not a bad idea. Governance. So governance in DAOs involves having, it's got to have its guiding principles and rules, just like the constitution of a not-for-profit organisation, right, or a charity. People have to, so there are a lot of familiar concepts, but we're doing this as a digital organisation where everything's a lot kind of faster and more transparent and equitable. Forced equity. There can be fundraising tokens, tokenomic models. Though, people are a bit wary of tokens in these structures. They can be good, or you could use a kind of, in my project, I'm looking at a two-way pegged Bitcoin, which is like synthesized Bitcoin, where we may get paid rather than having to come up with a token. There can be kind of securities law issues with tokens. It's better to use something that I guess is more like recognized as money or commodity. That's a talk for another day. But quite often they might have their own tokens if we can get to that legal point where it's not a problem. And yeah, look, proposals, multi-signature, there need to be security measures around, some decisions might need to be made at the top. Decentralization isn't an absolute. You don't go for decentralized governance from day one. The truth is that most DAOs do need to start with a decision-making board who agree and multi-sign on transactions. But those decisions are more transparent and more contributed to by the members. So there can be an element of decentralization's on a scale, right? I'm not an absolutist, you can't be in this space. So we may make a proposal and it may need to be signed off by some. So maybe that would be the members of our professional bodies, a select group from each, distributed. So sharing responsibilities. So when you're thinking about the organizational structure of a DAO, you got to stop thinking top down. You got to think flat structures. Okay, so who are the core team and contributors? They might be the builders, it might be us, okay? And we would have roles and responsibilities. We would get people who have the technical skills involved. So, the accounting technologists would be helpful too, and the blockchain technologists, blockchain software engineers. And while building it, there are teams who work on specific areas and they apply for bounties. Bounties is a term where, you apply for, I'll do this job, and when you do the job, you get paid. So people vote, yes, I agree, Nola, you're my victim today. Nola's going to do this job because she knows the most about this and she's good at being in charge. So we'll all agree for Nola to do it, and when Nola does it, smart contract pays her. And we can all see that decision was all agreed to and Nola got paid. So, Nola might be working with a team and distributing amongst that team. So there might be a team of contractors. Interesting to consider. It's not an easy thing. Oh, and this is what's holding us all up, is our regulators trying to figure this out. Now, what is a DAO structure? I mean, it's a decentralized structure. There is no structure. It's just a bunch of individuals, right? Or member organizations. You can... Digital Playhouse Foundation as a charity, I'm a responsible person of it, but it's Digital Playhouse Foundation, which is a member of the Lawfied DAO, because I don't want to be individually liable because, it's such a grey area at law, okay? So there are challenges. We can go ahead and conceptualize and get everything ready, but when it's kind of more legally possible to establish a DAO in Australia, then we might get going. But truth is, most DAOs are getting set up overseas, like Marshall Islands and Panama and stuff. So not because people want to avoid tax, because it's just like the law here is just not quite ready. There's no legal structure that really works well, but could still be done. You could do it with an association. What we found in Lawfied DAO was a not-for-profit association is probably the most suitable structure. Difficulty getting an ABN. But it was, and a bank account, but it was doable. So, but then you've got to think about the members, their tax residency, payroll, taxes. I mean, it's all just a bunch of individuals. It's the freelancer economy working together. So there shouldn't really be a company getting taxed, but there has been sort of more legal light shining onto those core teams, those core contributors, the DAO establishers, responsible people. So there's a lot of work being done in the UK on DAO regulation, which I think we'll take guidance from in Australia at some point. But in the meantime, setting up a DAO in Australia is risky because it's like seen as general law and tax law as like a partnership. So we're all jointly and severally liable, and that's been tested in some cases overseas too, where members who voted on a decision were taken to where something went wrong. They were held liable that people lost money because they voted on a smart contract product. Anyway, it's a little risky there. So I think the best way to sort of build something, like we've got a charity, Accountants on Chain is a charity project for learning. We can do this as a just as a kind of research project to begin with, and that's what Lawfy DAO kind of is. Lawfy DAO was exploring how to legally establish a DAO in Australia as its first mission, but it's ultimately wanting to create a pay-to-rely model that would provide affordable legal advice to businesses or individuals entering this space, including to tax agents. So I think we'll work with Lawfy DAO. Okay, DAO first or not? No, you need a legal wrapper. But there are some, this image, don't start a company, start a DAO. When I was looking into DAOs, some of like my friends who are kind of in this space were just like, no, just don't worry, the law doesn't work, just start a DAO. And I'm like, no, I'm going to work this out the right way. Even if I have to register it overseas. Because a DAO is a global organization, it's borderless, right? You don't know where all the members are. You don't know who each other are. It's trustless. You don't have to know who each other are. Okay, but I think it'd be different with a professional association DAO. Okay, so the future of governance. So just thinking in a big way about DAOs, why are people drawn to DAOs? There have been some interesting DAOs as in 2021, I don't know if anyone heard of Constitution DAO. It's where it was just an experiment. Someone got the American Constitution and just wanted to buy the American Constitution and with a DAO, and a whole lot of people got involved with it. But because all the contributions and the bid was online, visible on blockchain, they got outbid. So there's ways to get around that now with technology. You can make your DAO not visible to outsiders, because sometimes, like in a business, you don't want everyone to see who you're doing business with. So zero knowledge proofs are a way to have some privacy from the outside world with a decentralized organization, and that's actually what the EY blockchain project is. Nightfall. It's about zero knowledge proofs, so people can have a more sort of businesses can have a more private marketplace, but it's still open. Anyway, I digress. So, but DAOs are a tool for creating pluralistic, highly democratic societies where everyone plays an active role amongst others with shared beliefs and assets and causes. So they're really not-for-profit associations. They're ideal for membership associations. And there's also thoughts that DAOs can have a big impact on governance structures. There's this, if you Google network state versus nation state, will come up, you'll find some pretty amazing stuff. Careful, you might be too busy to go down that rabbit hole right now. But you sometimes see me exasperatingly comment, oh, let's just replace the tax office with a tax agent DAO. We could run the ATO better than they could. I'm serious. But there are, when I studied tax years ago, 20 years ago, most of the people at ATAX at UNSW were ATO employees. They were really educated. They were really good. We don't get to speak to them on the phone anymore. So maybe some of us could do a better job, and some of the taxes that are being spent on ATO staff who aren't so good, maybe we could get paid for our contribution for maintaining the integrity of the tax system. It's something to think about, but anyway, start small. Means of production. Yes, so you think about, communism, socialism, sometimes, based on some good ideals, but often go wrong. and quite often there's corruption, and then the value filters up to the top. So to capture that means of production, we can collectively coordinate and own the means of production amongst ourselves, using smart contracts to prevent those that would skim off the top from doing so. By design, we can set, the rules can be set so that they just can't be broken, can't do evil. So yeah, on-chain organizations could be the future, especially as, you know, we see tokenization of real world assets happening, and not just like, you know, your artwork being represented on a blockchain, but everything. Large organizations are tokenizing their assets and their products, and so, and it's also like rights are being tokenized, you know, membership rights and all kinds of things. So these resources would be better managed in a decentralized organization on blockchain because they're tokenized, right? And yeah, just this idea of George Orwell, remember reading this in high school, all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. That's just all about highlighting a need for fairer governance to prevent those crazy high salaries that we think maybe weren't really earned. How much value are we all getting from those people who receive really high salaries? Yeah, so anyway, I saw this post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago, which I found really interesting and something that triggered me back. It's all been a bit synchronistic, you know, see Jeanette's post on SBAABTA and this. I really follow Joe Caleb. He's really interesting and writes good stuff. But he wondered whether the term accountant should be legally restricted, because there are people out there calling themselves accountants, right? And they're not like with a professional body. And what are our associations doing about that? Like, you know, it's one thing being an unregistered tax agent, you can get fined for that, but anyone can call themselves an accountant. And okay, someone in the group mentioned in the chat, the thread mentioned the Public Accountants Registration Board, which I'd never heard about in Australia, and it was registered for, I think it was members of the Institute of Public Accountants, whatever it was called back there, National Institute of Accountants, and the Chartered Accountants had a registration board for accountants, I guess like tax practitioner board. Yeah, so I think IPA was exploring this. Noel, you might look, it might be something interesting to look into that, and perhaps if we're going to you know, reform the governance for accounting, perhaps we should be doing it with modern technologies that enable us to do it highly effectively and cheaply, with real oversight that could, you know, that could inspire trust across our professional organizations. Okay, just a thought to look into. So yeah, what role do you play in a DAO? Well, everyone plays a role. Everyone's a contributor and is remunerated in the network. So they're performing tasks, getting paid bounties for their bounties, and yes, interesting that Joni Purovich, who established LawFi DAO, she came up with this notion of decentralized universal basic income, and it's something really interesting to reflect on, because, you know, I remember 5 years ago reading about the social credit system and digital currencies and the idea of a universal basic income. And I thought, well, that's good. Like, some people in society do need a basic living income, like especially now, things are getting so expensive, crazy. And people just need something more than the dole to live on, and everyone can play a role in society, okay? But do we want that to be centralized by government? Like, you know, what will our mutual obligations be exactly? Will we get a say in that? We can vote, but we can't see the results of the votes. And, you know, we do have a democracy where we can vote, but the voting's not on blockchain yet, so I don't trust it. So yeah, it's this idea of a decentralized UBI. If we've got these network, kind of little network states of people working together in these decentralized organizations, we can contribute our skills into that to ensure that collectively there can be value flowing through that token economy, right? And everyone could get a decentralized universal basic income. If we were actively involved contributing to a DAO of tax agents, a DAO of accountants, or whatever, we could be getting a basic income from it, and perhaps more when we did more stuff of higher value. So, you know, everyone plays a role and everyone recognises and acknowledges each other's contribution in a value for value model. Look, Lawfy Down Digital Playhouse DAO, as I mentioned before, Digital Playhouse Foundation is a charity, and Gordon Christian, when we were doing the Advanced Diploma of Applied Blockchain together, we did a joint project, but I had to go and do my own project, so I did Accountants DAO. But our joint project was a charity DAO where we could provide transparent and secure funding through grants that we wanted to, you know, provide. So if we would get, so that a donor could see on blockchain how their donation was being applied, and people in the charity DAO could vote on how it was applied, so they could all contribute to it, and there was traceability, and so we explored that, and the white paper is available on our website, I think, or a light paper is. So we wanted to create efficient decision-making and governance for not-for-profits and charities to ensure that funds were being allocated effectively and not sucked into administration and high salaries. And look, we're not alone. There's lots of charities out there exploring this model. It's perfect with DAOs. But also Lawfy DAO we became a member of because Joni and team were exploring how DAO token holders acting as both principals and agents in transactions could have a system of value, and to explore the legal sort of ramifications of it, and help, you know, if you are doing a blockchain project, you could be spending like 10, 20, 50, $100,000 on legal fees, asking the same questions that someone else has asked. In a pay-to-rely model, in a DAO, perhaps that advice could be kind of reconstituted and be a lot more affordable. And that sort of lends kind of a bit to my idea of CPD in a DAO. I don't know, different model, but inspiring examples of not-for-profit associations of people working together with a similar cause, creating and distributing value. But yes, we do need our crypto lawyers to advise on legal structures, compliance, and navigating unique aspects of DAOs, as well as tax agents. So I'm happy now for, look, I've done well with time. It's 12:44. I'm happy for anyone. I'll look at the questions now. And I'd love to know, feel free to unmute yourself and we'll have a chat, because I want to look here now. This is over to you. Envisaging a small business accountants and advisors brains trust DAO. So excuse my misspelling, but this is what I think we would generally need to consider in the beginning. Okay, so there would need to be a light paper. Now, a white paper is the big long document, okay, and you don't invest in any, there's no investing going on here. This is just coming up with a concept, okay. What that DAO would look like, and we would have to consider the vision behind it, why, the problems it's aiming to solve, what are the things that we complain about all the time, what do we want to solve? It's hilarious when someone says to me, blockchain is a solution looking for a problem. Now we got lots of problems, we want to solve them. We talk about our problems all the time on Facebook. Okay, so let's get those down and consider I can answer like the tenets of blockchain and how they address those problems and create value. The value proposition for members in the professions. We've got some fantastic, you know, CPD options at the moment, but how much are we spending on them? And are they really useful? And are they useful for the public? Can the public actually see that you've got experience with, you know, an inventory system? You've got letters on the end of your name and they're staying on the end of your name because you do 20 hours a week, but, you know, really, certain 20, 30 or 40 hours a year on CPD, but No one can see what CPD you did other than the professional association. It's not very transparent. So, you know, maybe the public would trust us more if they could see what we've done. We can use some zero knowledge proofs to hide who we did it with and the clients that we might have learned with. But yeah, perhaps our proof of competencies could be considered in this model, and there could be an opportunity for us all to learn and earn in a CPD context, not just the CPD providers, because we've all got unique skills and we're all looking for specific skills. We've all got niches, you know, when we're all niching, and we need to kind of add this new technology to our existing niche, and we can find others with the same niche to sort of purchase those knowledge and skills from. Just ideas, but I want you to explore that. How we do it, how we create the value, like what would the token economics be? That could be a bit, just start with basics. Concepts don't have to put technical language around it. Who's our target demographic, potential members? Which organizations? Would it be more than the three? Should we have the blockchain, the bookkeepers as well? I think so. I think that there's quite emerging, but that's a discussion. I know many people in our group have opinions about whether bookkeepers are accountants, where do management accountants sit? Should it be based on, you know, that you've got an existing membership? Should this act as like the public accountants registration board of the old days, where we confirm that you've got qualifications, that you're qualified? I don't know. What benefits or motivations are there for members? How are they going to be incentivized to participate? And what role? This is an interesting one. Like, you know, don't feel threatened that AI and blockchain is going to take your jobs. It's just going to, blockchain removes the intermediaries, the middleman, but not the middleman, not the person, just the functions. So the people themselves are still valuable because they know stuff and can do stuff. Yeah, getting some spirited comments in the discussion here, which we'll go through in a minute. Yeah, so, and the structure. Like, who best to explore the legal structure for a DAO than us, and to form a body and consult with the government on how DAO should be structured, because we've got one. We want to do one. So I just thought that could really, you know, help innovation in Australia if we took the initiative on this. Yeah, so I'll just keep this open. Now, Nola has said, yeah, Jeanette, set up a charity, ACNC, DGR would be great, research entity. That's, yep, I think it is a safe space, having a, kind of like how we've done Digital Playhouse Foundation, but limitations with global dealings with a charity. So, but, you know, the structure could change at some stage, but that limited liability could be really, really good. I'm not an expert in this area with associations and that, but associations are kind of awkward by state, and we're all over the place. Yeah, so good suggestion, Jeanette. Got us thinking. I'd love to know what triggered something in Manny. So feel free to butt in, Manny, butt into my coffee ramble and tell us what triggered. I want to know what's triggering everyone. What does everyone think? Nola says, what does everyone think about a central board or a place for accountants to be registered? But then what do you have as a standard for that? I think that can be Nola's job to explore. But yeah, maybe that what was I looking at back here? The Public Accountants Registration Board is something to research here. Apparently, like, yeah, I think the CAs and CPAs kind of voted against it continuing or being re-established or something, but maybe we do need something like that. Yeah. And what the standard would be, I don't know. Well, this is the thing. This is peer-to-peer validation. We can validate amongst ourselves. We can vote collectively on who can be a member. It's going to depend on our, you know, if they're meeting the sort of the requirements that we all agree on, which we'll draw from our existing professional bodies, I guess. Yeah, so yeah, Melissa asks, she's all for resource sharing instead of training on why it's good to have work papers, share work paper templates so we all have excellent work papers. I love that idea, Melissa, paying software providers an arm and leg bits and pieces. Yeah, well, I mean, this is the subscription model is out. This is the thing that I love most about blockchain, right, and Bitcoin, is that we are now going to be enabled to do, you know, pay as you use rather than a monthly subscription. We're being bled by subscription fees. It's a great model. Hey, I do it. I charge my clients a monthly fee, and it lets me predict my income. I like it. But if I could just earn continuously, and every work paper you create is intellectual property. Now, intellectual property can be minted as an NFT, and when it's used, you can be automatically paid via a smart contract. So, Melissa, you go and create your set of work papers. We'll vote on whether they're useful or not. So this is an adjunct to a professional association. You're thinking of a marketplace here, but you're thinking like that is what's possible. You mint that as a non-fungible token, and then you could earn income from it. So, Michael, you're asking, are we potentially considering this model to have accountants review other accountants' work? Obviously non-judgmental, but educational, accuracy-based. Definitely something to explore. I hadn't thought about that. But it could help to maybe accelerate the career trajectories of young, smart accountants, and to, you know, attract talent. So educational, accuracy based. I know it's just a new model to think of, isn't it? But I think what we're starting with, and I didn't want to get too, I want to just come back to the governance. I think we have to start somewhere. We can't go solve all the problems at once. We've got to start, you know, with a startup. It's very tempting to go, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this, and we're thinking. And I do it all the time. But we've just got to start with solving one or two problems. Okay? And we start with governance. It's a governance model that we want to begin with. And good governance, like, you know, there was complaints recently about the CA's latest profit and loss statement. It was like, wow, there's some really big numbers. Why did they have a loss? Maybe that's a problem. Okay, resource allocation in our professional associations, while we might be feeling a bit, you know, like they could be spending more on things that are of more value to other parts of the membership. So I think just starting with the basics, but this could become a something bigger, and it could give us more authority collectively. So yeah, long term, it would be great to have tax legislation simplified. Oh yeah, I'm sure we could contribute to that. I mean, that's DAOs can have what's called oracles, outside sources of information, so that sources of truth that are off chain that they refer to, and perhaps, you know, if there are some theses on government agencies becoming DAOified, and so maybe the whole consultation around tax legislation that could work more effectively if we, as a body, collective body, said, hey, this doesn't work. The legislation we propose to be changed this way. Might be faster and cheaper for the country as a whole. Standard and regulated legislation, it makes sense. Imagine if we could all vote. Yeah, I mean, this is the future. It's just understanding really the basics of blockchain. And I've got a book, the DAO Handbook. It's really nice and basic to read, written by Scott Fitzsimmons, who started City DAO. I think it was City DAO, or no, maybe it was something else. But anyway, it had something to do with land. It was very interesting, like everyone collectively buying a piece of land and then deciding what could be done with it. And it's called How Internet Strangers Are Building Movements with Decentralized Autonomous Organizations. And it's very nicely broken down. And we could continue this in the new year. So, you know, my little Electrify project is, I think, it's just an extension of my business. I'm going to be exhibiting at, if anyone's at Accounting Business Expo next week, Please do come along to my stand at F31 next to Lisa will be there, Lisa Wilson, who works with me, and we'll all be near QuickBooks and the cafe. You'll see us with the blow up Bitcoin, giving out digital assets like it's called a POAP, an NFT, proof of attendance, and it's good to collect that NFT, that POAP, really simple. We'll have someone there from HODL Labs helping people set up a digital wallet. It doesn't cost anything, secure, and it's just I've got it here. This is the NFT. I was electrified at AB Expo Sydney. Yeah, come along and get that. But it's, you know, I've got on my phone, right, the mobile app, on the POA app, it says my wallet address is electrofrost.eth. So I can have my business name .eth, so it's the Ethereum domain, it's on blockchain, and all my POAPs of the things I've attended. So it's a proof of attendance protocol, means you were there, and it gives you the idea of like a basic utility NFT. So that NFT will then entitle you to a CPD session in the new year that I'm charging for. But you can come for free if you get the NFT and share it. So to find out more after this, please subscribe to the Electrify Insider. I haven't written much lately. I'm going to be fits and bursts. So December, there'll be heaps of news to read. And yeah, we'll get a kind of space going because I've done all my talking now. I want you to go away and think about things and yeah, take it from here. My own project will probably be something like this. But really, I'm not an island. There'll need to be at least, I think, 100 people leading this project. Wow, Jeanette, you participate in something similar to Sydney Uni for Mental Health, 8 pilot projects. That sounds really great, and tools with options. That kind of experience is really helpful. That's not my experience with organisation. Thank you, Nola. We'll chat later. But yeah, look, people who can structure it. I'm good with the technology. So I can say, I can find out if what we want to do can happen with the tech and how we can make it fast and cheap and effective. Yeah, thank you everyone for coming. We're now 1 o'clock. My timing's been great, and I hope you all don't mind. I'm going to, I don't know if you want me to send you an email or not, but if you scan this this QR code, you'll get a new. I'm going to talk about this in an upcoming little blog and with some next steps. Okay. Well, thanks everyone. Just reach out to me through Messenger if you've got any questions. Have a great afternoon. Bye now. Really appreciate you all coming.